nervous because I'm here now.
Hey guys, welcome into another episode of 410 Sports Talk. James Haskell with my co-host Glenn Martin here to recap another Ravens victory. We moved to 4-1, our second divisional victory of the season. We're now to another division. We win. Final score over the Cincinnati Bengals is, give it to me, Glenn.
27-3, and Jimmy, it wasn't even that close.
No, not even that close.
No, so the 1-2-1 Bengals moved to 1-3-1, and as you mentioned, the Ravens moved to 4-1 in a complete domination of a football game. I mean, they jumped on them early and did not let up, and really the Bengals needed a field goal with 40 seconds left to prevent the shutout. So really just a complete domination performance. Do you have some statistics here, Jimbo, that you can read off to us?
Yeah, I do. Before we get into statistics, I like that word domination you're talking about, because right now, 410 Sports Talk fans are dominating YouTube. We're really excited. Our subscribers are going up, so make sure you guys take a second, hit the subscribe button, go ahead and leave us your comments, leave us your likes. And go ahead and check out our Patreon if you're interested throughout the season and in the offseason, of course, at interacting more with the show. But as far as stats go, yeah, let's dig into it. I got some good personal stats. And then, of course, we have our team stats and things of that nature. But let's start on the offensive side of the ball. The good, the bad, and the ugly. We had some good stuff, bad stuff, things that we can improve on, and then things to build upon as far as strengths. So Lamar Jackson, 19-37. 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Our leading rusher today was Mark Ingram, Mr. 21, 11 attempts for 57 yards and had a 20-yard long. Devin Duvernay, our second leading rusher today, had 1 carry off the sweet reverse for 42 yards where he shot out of the backfield like a rocket. And then, just to give you some receiving stats, Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown both tied with most receptions of the game at 6. Marquise was the leader in yards at 77, while Mark registered 56, and they both put a touchdown up on the board. So those are some offensive stats for you there. What do you think? What did you think about the offense's overall performance? What were your takeaways, Glenn?
Well, I thought that they did what they needed to do to take advantage of some of the turnovers and the short fields that they had, thanks to the defense's incredible performance. Still, obviously, not hitting on all cylinders. I was happy to see bounce back games from guys like Andrews. Not that we expected anything less, but he did have a struggle two games ago. He had a pretty decent game last game, but I still think he only had like 3 catches. So it's nice to see him get back up to that high catch count, get up to 6 grabs. Good to see Marquise Brown get more involved. I thought early on in the season, he wasn't getting the involvement that I think we predicted he would. And then this constant carousel of running backs. You don't know who's going to be the guy this week. As you mentioned, it was Ingram this week, but man, it's crazy because you look at J.K. Dobbins, he gets 1 carry, he turns into the 34 yards, and it's just like, man, if you look at his averages, every time he gets the ball, he does something with it. But still just not getting a ton of looks. He did have 3 catches today for 21 yards on 3 targets. So I was happy with the offensive performance, but obviously they're still not where they want to be, and they're still not hitting on all cylinders like they mentioned. But they did what they had to do to get the win. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think it shows a little bit of experience to where, like you said, doing what you had to do to get the win, not hitting on all cylinders. I think there are 3 guys that I want to mention here that were important for our growth moving forward. You talked about Dobbins, not necessarily getting all the opportunities, but young guy taking advantage of opportunities. I think that will pay off as the season goes on. Same thing with Duvernay. I think that was another big one as far as a young guy taking advantage of an opportunity that he had there. And then, you talked about Marquise Brown getting more involved and looking to turn the corner when he made catches and go upfield. That's another huge one. So I think that those are the highlights as far as the offensive side of the ball goes for me. I'm sure there's other things that I'm missing, but in this instance,
well, let me ask you one thing real quick.
I think that's important. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, let me ask you, because I think one thing that really surprised me is we were kind of all wondering as Ravens fans who was going to get to start at right guard with Phillips missing practice with injury, and it's kind of surprising to see that they kind of did it by committee. It looked like at some parts. We saw McCarry get the start, but then we saw Powers in there, Ben Powers getting some play, and then back to McCarry. So were you as shocked as I was to not see Fluker in there at right guard when, I mean, that he was pretty much thought to be the right guard before the season started. So to not even see him in there as an injury alternate kind of surprised me. How'd you think?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And then I was surprised. But what I noticed in the game is in the second half when Mark, I think it was his first like run for 10 yards or so. It was like his first one that he had popped off that looked good. Last year, if you remember, a lot of times they were pulling Bozeman because he's relatively mobile guy. So what I noticed in this game is that they in that play in particular, I don't know if they were doing that a lot. I haven't watched all the tape, but they pulled Macari, and I think that the advantage that Macari has is he's much more mobile than Fluker and then even Powers, it seems. So while he's not the biggest, the fact that he has that mobility, he made a key block on that play that sprung Mark free. So strategically, I'm glad to see that at least that worked out. It was a surprise. Powers got that holding penalty, and then they yanked him. I mean, dude's got a short leash. But yeah, I was surprised to see that Fluker got no clock because I thought he had a pretty decent game in that Redskins game.
Yeah, it might just be that they want to keep the swing tackle available to do just that and play. That is to play tackle, especially with Stanley battling injuries. But still surprised to see that nonetheless. Now, if they were to put him at right guard and something were to happen to Stanley or to Orlando Brown, they'd have to move him out of right guard and force another guy into it. So I can understand why they do it, but still surprised nonetheless. But let me ask you another question. While Lamar Jackson, he only had 3 yards rushing, but that's not really a big concern for me because we saw games in the past where he did it with his arm and not his legs. But he had the one interception today. Looked like he should have had at least one more. I mean, that ball hit the linebacker dead in his hands. He dropped it. Maybe even another interception. What is your instant? I know we haven't had a chance to review much of the tape or anything. Just instant reaction. Was it Lamar? Was it the routes of the receivers? Was it the receivers not gaining separation? Why is it that this passing offense just still seems to be, missing something?
Yep, I think it's not going to change. I'm going to sound like I'm beating a dead horse here, but I think a lot of our passing game relies heavily on being schemed open. I firmly believe that. Now, Mark Andrews can make incredible plays, and beat guys one-on-one. Same thing with Marquise Brown. But if they're not thinking twice, if they're not concerned about the threat of Lamar tucking and running, if they're not concerned about the threat of Gus or Mark Ingram or Dobbins breaking off one for 8 to, taking it to the house, then I just don't think our passing game is quite as effective. I think that you talked about this. I'd like to know what the stats are when Lamar goes empty. I don't like it. I don't like seeing Lamar go empty. I don't think it's his strength, and I don't think it's the strength of our offense. So I'm a little concerned because it's weird that, we're 5 games in now and there's no righting of the ship so far, but I still am very confident that we can get to the championship level that we need to because the pieces are in-house.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And let's be honest, they won 27-3. So, we're not here to act like this is a loss. Right. This is a great game.
Right.
Really a total win, complimentary football, all 3 phases played very well. So I don't want that. And also, go ahead. Do you have something?
No, I was gonna say before we forget. Yeah, let's, after you finish your comment, let's take a second and we'll talk about the defense side of the ball because they shined. I want to give them some pub here in a second as well. So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's where I was going next because the defense has been catching a lot of heat for a few things. Lack of pass rush being the main one, but boy, we didn't have that this game. And I just want to go back to my notes I took down. Really, the first third down of the game, Jimmy Smith gets the sack on Burrow. Nice play by Judon. I want to look. Judon kind of had a roller coaster type game for me because he had some good moments, but man, he picked up another pair of penalties today.
Yep.
It's just so frustrating to watch. Two offsides. Is that correct? That's what I have written down.
Yep.
It's getting frustrating, but. To the positives, Calais Campbell was all over Burrow. He may have missed the sack, but he ended up forcing an incomplete pass, and they ended up failing on 4th down. Sacks by Queen. Man, can we talk about Patrick Queen absolutely destroying his former quarterback at LSU? Burrow did not see him coming, and Queen absolutely obliterated. And just the speed in which that he closes on ball carriers, whether it's in the flat, whether it's catching over the middle and short, or if it's the quarterback, His closing speed is unbelievable. He gets better every week, and just another week where he leads our team in tackles.
Yeah,
Jimbo.
no big deal, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
my
another
goodness, the
one.
youngest rookie in the rookie class of this year coming into the NFL, like you said, led our team with 9 total tackles, 6 solo, a sack, and a touchdown. I tell you what, that like you said, that shot on Joe Burrow, that was one of them kidney shots, dude. He got up and was feeling that one. I'm sure of it, man. My goodness. I scared my
Yeah, that was
dog. I
bad.
hopped out of my couch. When he made that play, my dog started getting all scared. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, he played phenomenal. And then also, I want to give a shout out. I don't know. I have the stats in front of me. I'm going to pull it up, but I don't know if Ferguson really registered too many stats, but
Yep.
I thought I said his name a few times out loud. I thought he played much better than in games past. Okay, so he did. He ended up with a tackle for a loss, and then he had let's see,
6
total
tackles.
no, 6 total tackles.
Yeah.
I'm not mad about that, So, and we need a guy like him to step up, a guy that kind of had high hopes after last season and has disappointed thus far. So it's nice to see him getting involved, and certainly getting some tackles for loss is nice to see.
Something that I'm trying to keep in mind based on the fact that we have a lot of young guys at key positions is that Martindale talks about this all the time, but today would be equivalent to week 1 for these guys. Where, if you think about it, there's no preseason as far as games go. And I realize there's more reps in the first 4 actual games than there would be in the preseason, but still mentally, pretty much in the same spot. The difference would probably be very similar. So Ferguson's a young guy. He's working off that hibernation weight. The thaw is here. He's out and about. He's out there running around, looking a little faster, looking a little more physical. But I'll tell you what, another guy that I want to, we can mention everybody on defense. Sean Elliott with the big sack. I mean, he laid.
How many DBs got a sack today?
Oh my gosh. Let's see. So we had
Humphrey,
Chuck,
Peters,
Chuck.
I mean,
all 4 of our starting defensive backs had a sack. Oh, 5 if you include Jimmy.
That's insane.
That's insane. I love it.
And I think that just shows that when we get a lead, it's just so incredibly hard to chip away and come back, because Wink, once he's able to be creative and bring those wild blitzes, it's tough to deal with, especially if you're not able to catch him with some man beaters, because it didn't look like they did a whole lot different as far as they looked like they still had they played man defense and they blitzed the heck out of Burrow. It's just they got home this time. So whether it's a knock on the offensive line or a knock on Burrow not being able to find the open guy and get rid of the ball quickly, whatever the reason was, the pass rush exploded for 7 sacks. Is that what I'm saying? 7?
Yep, 7 sacks.
I mean, that's incredible. So, yeah, so let me ask you this, Jimmy. Is this a sign of things to come? Is this something Ravens fans can get used to seeing?
That's something that I was going to ask you. Does this buy them a week of reprieve, or are the J.J. Watt type acquisition trade prospects type, not saying specifically J.J. Watt, but that those type of calls being made by Eric DaCosta, are they stopped after this week, or is this just 1 week? Specifically speaking of pass rush, if you're asking me, I say no, because the Bengals offensive line is garbage. Outside their left tackle, I don't know who else would be a starter on a lot of other teams. They're not doing great. The right side of that line is extremely weak. They had let up the right side of the line, the right tackle, I believe, or the right guard, but the right side of that line led up 20 quarterback pressures in the first 4 games. Yeah. That's insane.
No, I agree with you. I don't think you look at this game as a the pass rush is cured then. Everything. I don't think that's the case at all. This is a team who's given, I believe Burrow's been sacked more times than any quarterback in the league thus far. So you don't use this as a litmus test, but what you do say, you're pretty happy with it, because they did what a good defense is supposed to do with a bad offensive line. They feasted on him. They took a rookie quarterback. They made him look like a rookie, which, let's be honest, no team has been able to do to Burrow thus far. He's thrown for 300 yards in every game except for this game. He's been pretty successful thus far as a rookie. So I'm happy with the performance they put up, because they treated a bad offensive line like you should. They beat them up, but this in no way makes me think that that they are set at pass rush and that they should stand pat, and they have a window, and I think that they should attack it. But next week, I don't know if next week is even a good litmus test for offensive or pass rush because they're facing a team in the Eagles that has had tons of injuries on the offensive line. But we'll see what happens there. But another guy I want to point out is, man, he did it again, Jimbo. Fruit punch. Marlon 44 did it again. And this one might have been his most impressive.
Dude. Captain punch.
Is that what it is? Captain punch? Okay.
Captain
So he
punch.
grabs, I love how he grabs the guy's hips. And then there's no way he could have seen where he was punching. He was just hoping to hit it and hit him with the right cross, knocks it out. And then, of course, Queen scoops and scores with blazing speed. Jimmy, he did it again, Jimbo.
It's incredible. His accuracy rate. I mean, my goodness, it's just incredible. The rate at which he's landing these punches and popping the ball out. But I'll say this, it's not only the accuracy. Marlon Humphrey, I would guarantee, of all cornerbacks in the NFL, spends the most time in the weight room. He's got to be the strongest. I wouldn't put any corner over Marlon Humphrey as far as statistics in the weight room. I just don't see it.
Right.
He's always been a gym rat, and I think that's paying off because, I mean, you sit him next to Marcus Peters, they're two different men. Not saying that Marcus Peters,
they're different, and also the tenacity in which they play with, the attitude in which they play. It's not just that he's so physically gifted. It's the tenacity that it wasn't just settled with tackling the guy for a 9-yard gain. No, he's punching at every ball, and that's just the one that went out. He punched at a few balls today. He just only got that one out. So it's not just, when he gets it, he tries it a lot, which I love. That's that tenacity. Yeah, you just don't see that with a lot of players.
Yeah, and I love that he's skilled enough to where he doesn't have to make a choice between popping the ball out or making the tackle. He's doing them both successfully. I mean, that's insane. And I just want to say, we're going to talk about this. There was a lot of guys to choose from, but because that was probably the best defensive play I've seen all season from any team, I mean, that was incredible. The ability he was able to hold on and then pop it out with the right hand. He is my defensive player of the game. Glenn, who is your defensive player of the game?
Wow. This was a tough one to pick, but since I predicted Marcus Peters to get a pick six before the game, I got to go with Peters. We didn't even mention him yet. He had an interception, which, I don't want to downplay it, but it was a pretty poor decision and poor throw by Joe Burrow. He was being sacked. He was being taken down and threw it off his back foot. And it was probably the easiest interception Peters has had for his career, but he did something that we don't see often. He got a strip sack. I mean, it's not often that Peters is being asked to blitz the quarterback, but to get home and strip the quarterback on top of it. Now they ended up, I don't know if you remember that play, but it was a pretty big scrum for that ball and ends up getting batted out of bounds by Mixon. So they don't end up getting the turnover, but huge loss, a huge play. So I got to give Peters the nod for my defensive player, but Queen was this close.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I thought Queen was good.
Definitely our honorable mention. That's like, what Peters did, that's like batting the cycle, right? I mean, just doesn't happen very often to do all that. That was awesome. Really, really great to see. I mean, I have no qualms about what our defense did in this game. I think that I didn't see them even trying, the dump off wasn't there for them. The screen game wasn't there for them. There really was nothing there for them at the end of the day. But
I wish were you as shocked? Let me just ask you this, because I was kind of shocked to see Burrow play the way he did.
Yeah,
I was impressed with Burrow through the first 3 weeks. I thought he showed poise. This game, he looked rattled. He looked young. He looked confused. And if you remember, that was the key to the game for me on the defensive end, is to confuse Joe Burrow and to rattle him. They did that, Jimmy, but was it easier than you thought it would be?
Yeah, it was easier than I thought it was going to be, but I'm going to be honest with you. One of the reasons why I think he was rattled, I think that hit that he took in the first half, he got the ball off, but the one where Tyus Bowser hit him and his head snapped back and hit the ground, I'm surprised that he didn't go under protocol or anything. I think he got his bell rung. I think he had a concussion, if you ask me. He looked pretty punch drunk after that. I honestly think he had some sort of, I'm no doctor here, but when your head smacks the ground that hard,
it's not good. That's typically where the concussions happen. It's not really the impact with the other player. It's the snap back of your head hitting the mat. Yeah. Yeah, I was just surprised to see the complete domination and just lack of firepower. I thought that they would come out in the second half and put up some points. But yeah, surprise, but good win by the Ravens. Happy to see him at 4-1, keeping pace with a ridiculously talented AFC North that looks like it's going to take a really, really good record and a North that could see 2 to 3 teams come out of it with the expanded wild card position. I would not be surprised to see 3 teams come out of the North because it's good, man.
Yeah, I'm not looking too good right now, based on the fact that I had the Steelers winning 5 to 7 games this year.
Yeah, they're looking pretty good.
But at any moment, Ben's arm could just fall off.
And we know what would happen then. It would be big, big trouble. But as of right now, he's standing up right.
Yeah. Now, one thing I do want to say is, regarding this game in particular, you talked about Joe Burrow. The other thing I want to mention to folks, we talked about how this wasn't Lamar's best outing, right? We're still a little nervous about how this moves forward. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to remind you that Joe Burrow is older than Lamar Jackson. He is older, like in age, not in experience in the NFL. Yep. Keep that in mind, that like I'm the part of the reason I'm saying this is because I'm reminding myself that Lamar is still progressing as a player, right? Every single week, he's still learning and growing at such a rate where, like, when you start lifting weights, you get like newbie gains, right? I feel like Lamar is still in that newbie gain mode. He's so young. Yeah. You know what I mean? He's so young in his career. So it's something to keep in mind. But I guess my question as far as that goes, Glenn, how do you feel about what it is that we can do as a team to make him more comfortable and how we can move forward? And before you answer that question, one thing I do want to say, though, credit to the Cincinnati Bengals defense. That's not a pushover of a defense. Their front is legitimate. They would have had they had a bad, a string of bad luck there with DJ Reader going out. They looked good with him in there. That made a big impact in the run game. But that being said, how can we make Lamar more comfortable and how can we make our offense more successful as a whole? Not that they're not being successful, but I think that there's another gear there, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I guess we've been talking about this a lot, but for me, I still look at the commitment to the run game. I look at the start of the third quarter. Okay. We are up 17-0, right? To start the third quarter, we come out, let's see. We run the ball once for 3-yard gain, then incomplete, punt. Okay, so it's not the end of the world, but I'm not thrilled with the fact that you have a 17-0 lead and you're not. And okay, that's fine. But then the next time they get the ball, they come out first down, throwing again, incomplete. Second down, throwing again. Third down, scramble for Lamar Jackson. Luckily, he picks up the first down. He's able to. But then there's a penalty, so then it calls it back. So and then they end up punting on this drive. But the point is that I'm not seeing, you should come out those first 2 drives when you have a 17-point lead and you're thinking we're putting them to bed. We're going to have a long, like Mark Ingram said, let's go take up a quarter and score 7. Right. Let's go take up a whole quarter's worth of clock and go get 7. I think Lamar is fine. He just needs to be settled down by a good run game and then play action off of it. I agree with you, man. I get frustrated when I see 2nd and 4 and we come out 5 wide, empty backfield. I don't understand taking away the illusion of the run. Now, I understand Lamar could run himself, but taking away that illusion of having a running back, I don't like it. I'm not a fan of it. I never will be, and I don't think he operates well under that type of offense. So I think they need to just get back to their identity, Jimbo. They need to just keep drilling that run game and then play action, look for deep plays off of it. And I think they'll be just fine. I mean, it's frustrating to watch because as a broadcast, you're looking at the broadcast view, you don't know what the answer is. Is it that Lamar's not seeing the open guys? Is it that the guys aren't separating? Is it that the offensive routes aren't giving these guys the ability to separate because they're running hitch routes and short comebacks? He's not. So it's hard as an average fan who doesn't get the coach's game film to know what the problem is. So I go back to, let's get back to the ground, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think, and the answer to that question, I think it changes in every play, but I think overall, if there's one common denominator, the play action doesn't have any sort of an impact when you're not running the ball effectively. The RPO is not the same when Lamar and the running back are not popping them off for 8 to 12 a play, right? Every time. I mean, imagine us running it 12 yards a carry. Of course, that's unreasonable and unrealistic for us to think, but you understand what I'm saying here is that the impact of the movement in the backfield and what happens there, I think ultimately has that ripple effect on the most of the plays that we see go awry. When it doesn't work back there, it's not going to work in the rest of the play. So I think that that's crucial. The other, think about, just to add on to your point, I totally agree here. If I had to figure out a way to make Lamar more comfortable, it would be that as well. And the big thing to me is that you play in rhythm. You saw him in the first half saying that was my fault. I didn't see the clock, but we need to play faster. Like let's roll. The one thing there I think is important is that what's happening to me is when you saw last year, we would come out in 3rd and 7 and we're still running the ball.
And run.
Yeah.
That's right.
I didn't get it. We had a couple
deception.
Exactly. We had a couple 3rd and 7s today, 3rd and longs today. Heck, run the ball. I don't know. And like you said,
at least have a running back so they think they might.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
At least, and not spread out wide.
Right. And 2nd and 6, 2nd and 4. You're right.
And then I just want to point one other thing out, because you mentioned the DJ Reader injury. We talked about him before the game. Incredible run stopper, right?
Yep.
So Jimmy, they pick up pick up 30 yards to Hollywood, right? First down. DJ Reader gets hurt on first down. Gus Edwards runs for 3 yards. So now DJ Reader's out. It's 2nd and 7. They go pass, incomplete, punt. You just saw their best run defender get knocked out of the game. Why would you not run right at their backup who's coming into that game? It's just the stuff like that, little stuff that just drives me bananas, man. Just, you see Reader go out. He's clearly their best defensive lineman as far as run stuffing. And then you go pass, incomplete. It's just, it's frustrating. But I don't want to, I feel like we're talking about this like it was a lot. This was a heck of a win, complete domination, embarrassment to the Cincinnati Bengals. To beat a team like that in the division, I don't care what their record is. They hadn't lost by more than 5 all season. They lost by 5 points. They lost 35-30 to the Browns in a heck of a game. They should have beat the Chargers week 1 when they lost by 3, and then they tied the Eagles. So this is not a horrible football team, and the Ravens made them look like one. So I'm happy with their performance. Obviously, we have high expectations. We just went over all this stuff. We have high expectations for this football team, but that's not to say we weren't happy with this win and proud of the team.
That's absolutely right. I want to before we end here, I want to give our offensive players of the game, Glenn, and our game balls. John Harbaugh gives out his game balls, and we think the 410 Sports Talk game balls are just as important. All right,
just as.
That's right. So my game ball goes to Mark Andrews, and I realize that his stats very similar to Hollywood Brown, but the catch that he made, I mean, he looked like the number 1 rebounding power forward in the country on that play with that box out, using his backside, using his arms. That guy was draped on him like nobody's business. I loved seeing him make that play and told the dude on the ground, get off of me, bro. Get off. I'm too big. Loved
They were
it.
battling all day too, man.
Yeah, and that was awesome.
So I like seeing that.
Yeah, so what an incredible catch. Way to use his body. I loved his game overall. Made crucial plays. That 3rd and 14 diving catch that he made came up big. True love connection between him.
He was that whole drive.
Yeah.
He was that whole drive. I had notes down. I have Andrews. Remember he got flipped into the air on that tackle where he almost landed the flip. So that was a first down. Then the very next, he had 3rd and 14, got the Ravens inside the 10, then finished the drive with a 5-yard touchdown. So he had a phenomenal game, and that drive was a big part of it. But I want to talk about my player of the game, and it's Marquise Brown. I'm so happy that we started to see some make you miss or some just get past the first guy ability. I mean, we've been wanting this from Marquise Brown. We gave him a pass all last season because of his foot injury and because we know we needed him on the field. So whatever that means, if that means fall down, go out of bounds, whatever, we stay on the field. But this year we had higher hopes. He put on the muscle. Okay. He's healthy from the foot. At least he's working his way back. They're saying he's pretty much almost all the way. So it was nice to see. He got a little stiff arm. He was able to make a guy miss. He had 6 catches for 77 and a touchdown. But just more importantly was I need to see him want to get the most out of plays more than he has. I look at Devin Duvernay, the way he finishes the play and falls forward. I want to see a little bit. I understand he's undersized, but I want to see a little bit more of after the catch from Marquise Brown. But he's my player of the game, and this was a good step in the right direction.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. The way that he was able to plant his foot and get upfield, great signs and moving in the right directions. And just a shout out, not close to being my player of the game, but you're talking about getting the most out of every play. That play by Dobbins, the balance to shed the tackle, skirt the sideline, stay in. I thought for sure he stepped out. Stay in bounds, put the ball on the ground again, vintage Ray Rice, and go down the field. Man, I'm excited. Got high expectations of this offense, and I think that's why we're a little hard on the offense, is because we have really high hopes and high expectations and know what sort of efficiency they can have as far as the offense goes. Shout out to the defense as a whole. I mean, I think every single guy that stepped on the field registered a stat. Pretty
Shout
impressive.
out to Pernell McPhee, second in tackles and got a sack. The old dog.
That's right, man. He hasn't gone down without a fight. I tell you what. So let us know what you guys think. Who is your offensive, defensive player of the game? What do you think of how we can make Lamar more comfortable? What were your overall opinions of the game? We love to interact with you in the comments. Really happy the Ravens got a win. Excited for next week. Can't wait to give you guys some awesome content coming out this week. So make sure to hit the subscribe button, turn on your notifications, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
See you.